here. First of all, I did have the opportunity to go to Puerto Rico 2.5 weeks after the storm with Congressman Smucker and a bunch of other members. We saw firsthand the extraordinary work and dedication of the men and women of FEMA, of the Coast Guard, Lord knows, the Army Corps of Engineers, and all the other responders. So thank you first and foremost. In particular, Admiral Schultz, a constituent of mine. I've got a bunch of constituents who had family there, very concerned. One gentleman in particular named Doug McCool from Hopewell Junction, New York, was very concerned about his parents who own a bed and breakfast on Vieques. Your folks actually located them and put them in touch specifically for him. It was great for his family. I want to thank you for that publicly. General Jackson, here's the deal. On this power grid issue, the bottom line is you guys don't normally do that, do you, after a storm?
That's correct. We don't normally do that.
And the reason you don't normally do that is because states normally have emergency mutual assistance compacts with other states. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And so private crews from other power companies show up within the days after a storm and flood the zone, if you will, and put those wires back up. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Yes.
And those agreements contemplate reimbursement to those power companies by the power company in the jurisdiction affected. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Right. And so when the administrator says that you were, I believe his term was mission assigned that task, that's a polite way of saying that got landed on your plate, but you don't normally do it, right?
That's correct, sir.
And so when you say that by the third week of October, you had awarded contracts on that, unfortunately, that's a month after landfall, right?
Yes, sir.
And a month went by without power for the vast majority of the island's population while we're still sorting out who's going to do it. And then we award those contracts a few weeks later. We know all about the whitefish stuff. I don't want to get into that. But the fact of the matter is today your testimony, I believe, was that we now have Fluor and Power Secure and some other companies. I'm very familiar with Fluor. I understand these are very capable entities, and that we have about 300 pieces of rolling stock, I think you said, that are on the way to the island. Is that right?
Sir, we have today, if I may, we have 450 Corps of Engineers employees and contractors doing the temporary emergency power mission, which is what began after Irma's landfall and continues and will continue until the grid is restored. Today, we have over 150 contractors from Fluor and Power Secure that are on the ground.
Right.
Mostly...
You're talking about individuals.
I'm talking individuals.
But in terms of the rolling stock, I think you said 300 pieces are en route?
Sir, there are 2 vessels that are due in within the next week, one this weekend and one on the 7th of November. Each has about 300 pieces of rolling stock for those individual contractors. So when
Each has about 300 pieces of rolling stock?
That's correct, yes, sir.
So we're talking about 600 pieces of rolling stock. How many crews does that equate to? Do you know?
We should have on the ground first part of next week 108 crews.
108.
And by the 25th of November, we'll have 181 crews. But we have gotten approval, and we're working through the action right now to increase
I understand
those
that,
numbers.
General, but my time's limited, so if I may, sir, I understand that. I had an opportunity to speak to the governor of Puerto Rico yesterday, Governor Rosselló. We were all together in Puerto Rico 2 weeks after the storm. At that time, Brigadier General Holland, who is your senior commander on the island, told us there were about 200 crews available, and they were going to double it through these private contracting to 400. You may recall I had an opportunity to ask this question here in the auditorium a couple days later.
Yes, sir.
And your answer to me was that we were going to surge that to whatever the level was needed. But here, as we sit here, 6 weeks after landfall, the governor of Puerto Rico told me yesterday, sir, that the number of crews he has in the island right now is 400, and he needs 2,000. He needs minimum 2,000 crews, not individuals, crews, to get that power grid up. Now, I know it's not normally your job, and I know we got a couple hundred pieces of rolling stock that are going to get there at some point, and I know we got a few hundred individuals on the island. But for God's sakes, we are nowhere near the resource level we need, are we, to get that power grid back up, because the mutual assistance compacts that are normally in effect aren't working. Isn't that right?
They're not working, sir, because they weren't requested until this week.
In fact, Puerto Rico has an emergency mutual assistance compact, does it not?
Yes, sir, they do.
It's a signatory. It was said here earlier that they weren't in place, but that's not true, is it? They are in place.
No, they're in place, sir, but they weren't.
It's just that the power companies from other states aren't responding.
They were in place. They're available, but the governor chose not to activate them until this week.
But isn't the issue that the power companies that would have had to respond were worried about being reimbursed? Isn't that really the issue, General?
That I can't answer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But do you agree with me that right now we have maybe 20% of the resources, stringing wire and running cable, that we need to get that power grid back up?
Sir, we have resources that are flowing in as fast as we can get it in. And
that wasn't my question. Respectfully, General, that was not my question. We have about 20% maybe of the resources we need to get the power grid back up?
Congressman, I don't know what the number of resources is in terms of the overall
You disagree with the governor that he needs 2,000?
We're still doing the assessments that we need to determine what the resources are. At the same time, we're flowing in as many resources as we can physically
You
get in.
disagree with the governor's assessment that he needs 2,000 and we've got 400?
I would like to see the governor's assessment on what's driving 2,000. I know we need to get crews in faster, and we're working to do that, but I don't know what the governor said. I don't know what he's judging 2,000 crews on, but we're working very diligently to get as many as we can under the authority that we have to be able to address the problems in Puerto Rico. And we're doing it
Appreciate
as
that,
fast
and I
as
want to
we can.
reiterate, I understand this is not normally your responsibility, and thank you for your efforts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, gentlemen. And with that, Governor Sanford, recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the Chairman. I'd like to follow up on the interchange that I just heard, because whether it's 300 crews, 400 crews, 2,000 crews, whatever number of rolling stock, I think that the question is, how do you get more there faster? And so I guess my question would be to the administrator, the Admiral. And there was, as we all know, a 10-day repeal, if you will,